I never expected my own home to feel foreign to me, but that night it did. It started with something so small I almost ignored it. My wife whispering on the phone in the kitchen, her voice low, tense, nothing like the casual conversations she usually had with friends. When I walked in, she snapped upright, locked her screen, and forced a smile that didn't reach her eyes. She said it was just work, but her tone was too sweet, too rehearsed, like she'd practiced the lie before I even asked. That was the first red flag. The second came an hour later when she suddenly insisted she needed to run out for groceries, even though our fridge was full. She grabbed her purse so fast it nearly slipped off the counter, avoided looking at me, and left with the same urgency someone uses when escaping a burning building. I told myself not to overthink it until I noticed something else. Her perfume, stronger than usual, unfamiliar, almost like she was trying to mask something. And when I checked her usual grocery list spot, it was empty. No list, no plan, just an excuse. Standing in the silent living room, I felt it for the first time. The sharp, cold instinct that something was terribly wrong. And the more I tried to shake it off, the heavier it pressed on my chest, whispering that this was only the beginning. The next few days felt like living with a stranger. She started guarding her phone like it held state secrets. The moment I walked into a room, she'd flip it face down or tuck it under her thigh. Her notifications were suddenly off. Her password suddenly changed. Whenever I asked why, she laughed it off and said, "You're being paranoid." But the laugh was hollow, mechanical, like she was reading from a script. Then her new late-night work calls began. She'd step outside onto the balcony, whispering sharply into the dark. One night, I cracked the door open just enough to hear her say, "No, he's asleep. I told you I'd make time." The words hit me like a punch. When she came back in, she froze for half a second, just long enough for me to catch the panic flickering in her eyes, before she plastered on a smile and asked why I was still awake. Her excuses grew sloppier. She came home once with her hair slightly messed up, blouse misbuttoned, and a distraction in her voice she couldn't quite hide. When I asked where she'd been, she stared at me without blinking and said, "The pharmacy." A pharmacy that apparently left lipstick smudged below her jawline. Something wasn't adding up, and that growing tension, that sickening confusion, it built until I did something I never imagined I'd do. I started watching her, tracking tiny details, her routes, her routines, her sudden, unexplained disappearances. And that's when I noticed the first undeniable pattern, the one she couldn't possibly talk her way out of. Every Thursday, she started working late. Same time, same tone, same cold, distant energy. So I checked the mileage on her car before she left, quietly, without a word. When she returned that night, the odometer had jumped far more than her office commute required. Not by a little, by nearly an hour's worth of driving. The next week, I did it again. Same pattern, same lie dressed as routine. But the real evidence arrived on a Wednesday afternoon, when she left her laptop open on the dining table just for a moment while she went to grab a drink. A message popped up on the corner of the screen, a name I didn't recognize, a short line that froze me in place. "Same place tonight?" My stomach dropped, and before I could even click anything, she appeared behind me out of nowhere, slammed the laptop shut, and snapped, "Don't touch my things." No explanation, no attempt to pretend it was work, just raw, defensive panic. It rattled me so hard I spent the next day replaying everything in my head, trying to convince myself there had to be another explanation, something innocent, something normal. But deep down, I already knew. I just didn't have the kind of proof she couldn't twist into another lie. Not yet. That proof arrived the following night, when she left again. Same excuse, same calm, practiced voice, and I noticed something sticking out of her purse. A hotel key card, a hotel we had never been to together. And in that moment, everything inside me shifted. I felt the anger rising, but stronger than that was a cold, focused certainty. It was time to stop guessing, time to catch her in a lie she couldn't manipulate her way out of. I didn't confront her right away. I wanted to see how far she'd go. That night, when she walked back through the door, smelling faintly of cologne that wasn't mine, I asked a simple question. Where were you? She didn't miss a beat. At work. Her voice was flat, steady, almost bored, as if lying to me had become muscle memory. When I mentioned the hotel key card I'd seen in her purse, she froze, but only for half a second before rolling her eyes and saying, "You're imagining things. You always do this when you're stressed." She said it with this dismissive, superior tone, like she was talking to a child who didn't understand the world yet. Then she pushed it further. "Why are you going through my things? That's controlling." She flipped the narrative so fast it made my head spin. Suddenly, I was the problem. I was insecure. I was paranoid. I was invading her privacy. And she talked so calmly, with such cold certainty, that for a moment I questioned myself. She made me feel guilty for even noticing the red flags she kept planting in front of me. But then she made her biggest mistake. She said, "If you keep accusing me of things, you're going to push me away." Push her away. As if she wasn't already gone. The next morning, she acted like nothing happened at all. Cheerful, chatty, overly affectionate. It was a performance, and not a good one. She was smoothing the surface, so I wouldn't look under it. But she underestimated me, because while she was busy pretending everything was normal, I wasn't pretending anymore. I was preparing, watching, collecting every detail she tried to hide. And 2 days later, I uncovered something that didn't just confirm the affair, it exposed the full extent of it. And it was so shocking, so blatant, that even she wouldn't be able to deny what I saw with my own eyes. 2 days later, everything snapped into place. She said she was going to a team meeting. Same line, same tone, same calculated indifference. But this time, I left 5 minutes after she did and followed her car at a distance. It wasn't a dramatic chase. No speeding, no sudden turns, just a quiet, steady drive across town, until she pulled into the parking lot of the same hotel printed on the key card I'd seen. I parked far enough away not to be noticed, but close enough to see her step out of the car. She looked different, lighter, almost excited. She checked her reflection in the window, adjusted her necklace, and then did something that made my blood run cold. She smiled. Not the polite smile she gave me at home. A genuine, warm, glowing smile. The kind I hadn't seen in months. A man walked out of the hotel's side entrance, looking around casually. She walked right up to him and without hesitation wrapped her arms around. He kissed her like they had been doing it for years, not weeks, not secretly, comfortably, familiar. I felt something inside me crack. Not a dramatic explosion, just a quiet, devastating break that left everything numb. But the real blow came 30 seconds later. She pulled her phone out, snapped a quick selfie with him, laughed, and said, "He thinks I'm at work." He bought it again. Bought it again. As if deceiving me was some running joke between them. They walked into the hotel together, and as the door closed behind them, all the denial, all the gaslighting, all the doubt evaporate. Whatever hope I had left for an innocent explanation dissolved completely. There was no misinterpretation, no overthinking, no paranoia. My wife was cheating, boldly, comfortably, shamelessly. And I realized I had reached a point where there was no turning back. Because the next step, the confrontation, was no longer a choice. It was inevitable. I waited until she walked through the door that night. She tried to glide past me with her usual routine, casual greeting, forced smile, purse tossed carelessly on the counter. But I stepped in front of her before she could escape down the hallway. "We need to talk," I said. She froze, just for a heartbeat. Then she tilted her head, gave me that cold, irritated sigh, and said, "If this is another one of your paranoid episodes, I'm not doing this." I didn't speak. I just held up my phone and pressed play. The video I'd taken from the hotel parking lot lit up the screen. Her embracing him, kissing him, laughing with him like they were the ones who had built a life together. Her entire face drained of color. Her mouth opened slightly, but no sound came out. Then her expression snapped into something else. Anger, sharp and defensive. "Why were you following me? That's insane. You're stalking me now?" Gaslighting. Even in the face of undeniable evidence, she sprinted straight back to lies. "I know everything," I said. "The hotel, The messages, the late nights, all of it. She crossed her arms, jaw tight, and forced out one last attempt at control. "You don't know anything. That man is just a colleague. We were discussing a project. In a hotel room? While kissing?" My voice didn't rise. I didn't have to. She faltered. The lie collapsed before it even left her mouth. And for the first time since all of this began, I saw it. The pure, unmistakable panic of someone who knows the game is over. But then she did something I didn't expect. She looked at me with a cold, sharp calculation I had never seen before and said, "If you ruin my life over one mistake, you'll regret it." Not an apology, not remorse. A threat, and with that, everything between us, the trust, the years, the promises, shattered completely. That was the moment I knew exactly what I had to do next, because staying with her wasn't survival anymore. Leaving her was. The threat hung in the air between us, sharp enough to cut. She wasn't crying. She wasn't apologizing. She wasn't even pretending anymore. She stood there with her arms crossed, eyes cold, like I was nothing more than an obstacle she needed to manage. That clarity made my decision simple. "I'm done," I said. "I'm leaving. You can explain everything to yourself, to him, to whoever you want, but not to me. Not anymore." For a moment, something in her face flickered. Fear, maybe, but it vanished fast, replaced with that same defensive arrogance. "Fine," she snapped. "If you want to run away instead of fixing things, go. But you'll regret throwing this marriage away." I didn't answer. I just walked past her, while she muttered under her breath about how dramatic I was being. I packed a small bag. Essentials, documents, a few clothes. The silence in the bedroom felt different now, heavy but honest. For the first time in months, I didn't feel like I was suffocating. When I came back out, she was sitting on the couch scrolling her phone, deliberately calm, like she wanted to prove she didn't care. "You're really doing this?" she said, without looking up. "I already did it," I replied. I walked out the front door, and with every step down the driveway, the weight on my chest lifted. By the time I reached my car, the numbness had faded, replaced by something I hadn't felt in a long time: certainty. Later that night, after I checked into a small rental apartment, she called 5 times, then 10, alternating between rage, guilt trips, and sudden declarations that she never meant to hurt me. I didn't answer. I let every call go to voicemail, each one exposing a different version of her: angry, scared, manipulative, pleading, cruel. The facade had cracked, and behind it was someone I didn't recognize, or maybe someone I had finally started seeing clearly. But the real storm, the real emotional reckoning hit the next morning, when I woke up alone in a quiet room with nothing but my thoughts. And what I felt wasn't anger. It was something far more complicated. The morning light came through the blinds in thin, pale lines. For the first time in months, there was no tension humming in the background, no footsteps to analyze, no phone notifications to second guess, just silence. But it wasn't peaceful at first. It felt hollow, like the quiet after a storm where you're still waiting for another crash of thunder. I sat on the edge of the unfamiliar bed and let everything hit me. Anger, sadness, disbelief, relief, all layered together in a way that made it impossible to tell where one feeling ended and another began. That's when I realized something. The pain wasn't from losing her. It was from holding on to someone who had left me long before I walked out that door. I replayed the moments that used to feel like failures on my part, the distance, the coldness, the excuses, and saw them for what they really were: her choices, not my shortcomings. I had been fighting for a marriage she'd already handed to someone else. Around noon, I finally listened to her voicemail. The shift was surreal. First, rage. "You're ruining everything." Then guilt. "We can fix this if you stop overreacting." Then desperation. "Please, just talk to me." And finally, indifference. "Do whatever you want." Every message told the same truth. She wasn't sorry she betrayed me. She was sorry she lost control of the narrative. I deleted them one by one. Later that day, I took a walk around the neighborhood. Nothing special, just air, space. A moment without lies pressing against my chest. And somewhere between one step and the next, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. The beginning of myself again. That night, I wrote down everything I wanted moving forward. Not from her, but from my life: honesty, respect, peace. The kind of foundation you can only build once you stop trying to rebuild the ruins of something that was never stable in the first place. The story didn't end with revenge or some dramatic twist. It ended with clarity, quiet, steady, unmistakable. I didn't win her back. I didn't lose her. I simply walked away from someone who had already walked away from me. And that was the first truly honest moment in our entire marriage.